Hello, everybody. Welcome to Crush Cellar webinar series. Crush Cellar is the one-stop shop for all your winery needs for the small to very large wineries. We are located in Newberg, Oregon, in the heart of the Willamette Valley. We are serving the wineries in Oregon and in every state for the past 6 years. We are sharing our building with the most reputable and accurate wine laboratories in the nation, ETS Laboratories. Crush Cellar carry all the major brands for your everyday winemaking protocol and procedure. We sell fermentation products, yeast, nutrients, enzyme, malolactic bacteria, fining agents, stability agent, bulk chemical, but also packaging product, natural corks, tin capsules, screw cap, crown cap, videos, filtration product, barrel alternative product, hardware, valve, and cleaning equipment, etc. We have way more, but that is what we do. My name is Sébastien Marquet. I'm commercial director and your host today. Let me introduce you to our guests. Today, we changed the format. We have more than 45 minutes as usual. And we will have first Dr. Richard DeScenzo. Richard joined ETS Lab in January 2006. He's the microbiology group leader. Rich guided the development of the Scorpion wine spoilage detection kit. In addition to development and food diagnostic for the fermentation industry, Richard worked with clients to help them understand their microbial fermentation problems and develop a monitoring program to prevent future problems. So you can contact Rich per email at rdcenzo@etslabs.com or per phone at 707-302-1028. Rich is always here for answer any technical question that you can have with your wine, so feel free to contact him directly through ETS Lab. After that, we'll have Donald Jones with 38 years of food and beverage industry experience, 9 years in the food processing industry. He also has 29 years in the food plant sanitization, specialty chemical industry and chemical equipment. Don has taught classes in basic cleaning and sanitization, basic sanitizer, chemical safety, chemical testing, sanitary design, and more. Today, Don work at Wesmar Company, a Pacific Northwest company. They offer consulting service, food safety, and sanitization water treatment. You can buy Wesmar products at Crush Cellar for your cleaning and sanitization needs. You can contact Don at djones@wesmarcompany.com. And after Steve Buchan, founded. So Steve founded Aqua Tools in 1991. He grew the company to be the leader in the sanitization process for beverage industry. In 1997, Buchan partnered with Gamma Jet to introduce the Gamma Jet 7, which revolutionized the barrel sanitary process by introducing a device that cleaned barrel with high pressure, utilizing a fraction of what a traditional process required. Additionally, Buchan has led the way with a variety of other popular tools, including the Aqua Tools property hot carts, portable electric hot water generator pressure washer. Aqua Tools continue to grow the success of these tools and a network of reliable distributors. So we are at Crush Cellar selling Steve Buchan tools. So if you need any Aqua tool, you can reach to Terry or myself, and we're happy to introduce you to. So, Dr. Richards, I will put you as a host, and you can at this point start your presentation.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you.
Rich, while you're getting set up here, for all the attendees, y'all can ask questions verbally, but if you have any monitoring the chat to make sure we catch your questions.
Yes.
All right. Is that screen? Everyone can see the screen?
Yes.
All right. Good. So I've got to minimize you guys so I can see my whole screen. Hang on a second. All right. Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Sébastien, thank you for the opportunity to speak in the seminar series. Sébastien had asked me to talk a little bit about what ETS is offering this harvest, if there's anything new. So we're going to talk about a few new things. But we'll start off with just looking at some historical things. It's funny, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal last week about how with the pandemic, we've lost the ability to have conversations with each other. And they suggested that to maybe, you know, go for common ground with something such as the weather. I will go to the weather, but now it's not allowing me. Hang on. There we go. Go to the weather. It wasn't allowing me to move my screen forward. So what's in store for the 2021 vintage? Hard to tell, but I always like to dig into the data from previous vintages. And usually every year I give a seminar, a sort of a post-harvest wrap-up for Napa Valley, where we look at all this type of data and look at historical records for rainfall and degree grow days. And so this year, if you look under rainfall in the 2021, and by the way, I'm counting rainfall from October through June as the rainfall for the 2021 vintage. And you can see it's we're about average. I think the average is around 44 for the 7 years I'm looking at, and we're just at about 40, so maybe just slightly below average. But so rainfall has been fine. And then temperature-wise, we're a pretty warm year. And so this is something so far, degree days. If you look, we're at 1868 degree days as of yesterday. And the high was 2015 of 1961. The low being last year, 2020, with only 1527. So definitely a warmer year this year, and sort of an average rainfall. And it'd be nice if we could look at that and then be able to know exactly what's going to happen in the juice. I wish we had a tool like that, but we don't. So, but what we do have is a historical record. And because, you know, as much as I'd like, we don't have a crystal ball. It'd be great if we could just predict what is going to happen. Wouldn't that be? It'd make planning a lot easier if you know what to go to crush to cellar to buy right away, instead of waiting until mid-harvest or as grapes are coming in. This is looking at historical data for Oregon Pinot Noir from 2014 through 2020. Now, this is data based on ETS juice panels. And so I go through all the records and pull these up and calculate averages just to show that there are differences vintage to vintage. And I think you guys all realize that, but to show that there are these differences. And, you know, we are seeing, for example, in this case, the red or pinkish highlight color indicates the low value for that particular parameter in a year. And then the green is the high parameter. So if you look at glucose, fructose, for example, there's quite a range. The average in 2014 was 212, and in 2016, 250. And we see, you know, these trends occurring. But you know, it's interesting because I've tried to look at this heat, you know, growing degree days and water and look for some type of a pattern. And I don't see a lot of a pattern, except perhaps maybe with pH and potassium. And we'll talk about that for a minute. But bottom line, every year, every vintage is different, and there can be big swings. I mean, Tartaric between 3.2 and 5.2, Malic running from 1.95 to 2.8. So there are differences. You know, look at the Yan for 2016. It was 225 was the average Yan, and in 2019 it was 136. So you were probably supplementing Yan in 2019, or maybe you were having some problematic fermentations. One of the things that we see in looking over this data is the impact of potassium on pH. And this is consistent year to year and varietal to varietal, that when you've got high potassium, you're going to have high pH. And if you look at 2014, you had the highest potassium and the highest pH. And in 2019, you had the lowest potassium and the lowest pH. So once again, looking at these things, you can see these trends and see how things are occurring. Once again, historical data. Just to throw up another screen, this is Oregon Pinot Gris juice panel averages. And once again, the same type of thing, but with a different varietal. And you can see once again differences between these parameters. Like I said, glucose, fructose. 2015, you're at 244. And that was a little bit different because with glucose fructose, it was 2016 in the Pinot that it was higher. So these things, like I said, it's we see differences that are varietal specific and vintage specific. So we do see these differences. But once again, one of the things that's pretty consistent is that if you do see higher potassium, you'll see higher pH. When you see lower potassium, you'll see lower pH. So that's kind of a consistent thing. And the others bounce around a bit, but obviously if pH is going to be high, then probably your TA is going to be lower. And if your pH is low, then your TA is high. So these are all things that pull together that we can see when we're looking at the historical data. And the reason I bring up the historical data part is because every year I do this seminar, post-harvest wrap-up for Napa Valley, and people really like all the science, looking at the differences from year to year and varietal to varietal. And they say, this is really interesting data, but boy, it sure would be nice to know this in the middle of harvest instead of after harvest in January. So we tossed around this idea and we came up with a concept called the vintage portal. And what it is it's real-time juice panel data, real-time phenolic panel data. We're offering that now. As we get more data in on grape maturity and other things like IBMP for cabs or scorpions, juice scorpions, we can kind of make all this data available in real time. And so we've offered this for 3 years. Now, last year, we kind of got sidetracked with other things, and we didn't really do any juice panel or really put much up on the vintage portal. And I didn't even do a post-harvest seminar simply because people were picking last year just to try to get grapes in before getting too much smoke exposure. So they weren't, it would have been an anomaly year. So we didn't do a whole lot with it last year. But in order to do this and make this available real time, all we need for each juice sample is the AVA and the varietal. Okay, and I'll talk a little bit more about how you can do that when you bring samples in. But meanwhile, how do you access this data? Well, if any of you, most of you, go to your ETS, go to the website and log into your dashboard, and you may not have noticed this little tab over here that says Vintage Portal. Often you can request a courier or get supplies. You'll use that. But if you actually click on the Vintage Portal, it brings you to another page where you can select the analysis. And right now we have, I think, juice panel and grape phenolic panel. You select the varietal and you select the region. And then you run the report and it gives you all of the information from the juice panel in real time. If things are trending early, you're going to be able to see that early. The truth is, the power of this is really in how much the community embraces it and how much data we have. But also, in Napa Valley, we've got several AVAs, but because of what we do is we lump everything together into just one Napa, so that we have more data points to show. I think as people start to join into this community with the Vintage Portal, then we'll be able to break down and get more granular into different AVAs within the Valley. And I would expect the same thing in Oregon. As we start off, we may break it into sort of the Northern Oregon versus Southern Oregon as far as looking at trending, unless of course we get enough participants that we could then get more granular with the AVAs. This is what some of the data looks like. And for example, on the left column is Napa Cabernet Sauvignon with the Vintage Portal. And I believe this was 2019 data. And you can see that things like ammonia, alpha amino compounds, yan, you can see the trends that are occurring during the harvest. If you look at that middle column, that's all the data from California, and that's what I've extracted from the LIMS system and plot the same thing. And you see the exact same trends, just a lot more data. And then over on the right is actually data I was able to pull up from Oregon Pinot last year. And you see similar types of trends, although as the ammonia was dropping, I think it dropped more last year towards the end of harvest. And then what was happening is that overall dropped the YAN. But once again, it gives you an idea of what's happening. So you can see where you are, and you can certainly, you know what your data value is on your juice panel. And then you can certainly look and see where that fits in on this screen, whether you're high or low or right in the median with everyone. So, so this is something that we're very excited about using, and I think we've gotten we're getting a pretty good buy-in. Here's another slide once again showing some acid balance, so pH, TA, tartaric acid, and we get you know, the same trends when we look at all of the data from California cab, and very similar trends when we're looking at Oregon Pinot. So that pH is increasing slightly as you know, as you're getting riper, that your as potassium is coming into the grape, and you're losing acid. A TA drops, as one would expect, as pH goes up, and then this drop in tartaric acid. So once again, a tool to see in real time what's occurring with juice panels, or with the juice chemistry. Here's one looking at phenolic status. We don't have as much data with this, but we're getting more and more people. Once again, this was 2019, and hoping this year we'll get some more participants looking at the phenolic data. Once again, it's a really good tool if you're looking at you know, phenolic maturity. It's a good way to see in real time what's happening, and also, of course, to see where your data falls in the group. Right now, we don't have the capacity, but I hope as we move forward that when you can click on an analyte on your dashboard, like say, click on, if you ran phenolic, you'd click on tannin on your sample, and it would pull up this plot of you know, Oregon Pinot Noir, and it show where your tannin is regards to everyone else's. So that's the goal, is to develop a tool which allows you to see trends before they occur, and or as they're occurring, and then see how your data actually fits in. Because some years things are higher or lower, and you may be looking at the data and wondering, is there something wrong? Am I the only one seeing this? And then you may realize, no, everyone's seeing the same type of phenomenon. So what is the vintage portal data, and how do we use it? Well, if you provide the AVA and varietal code on the sample label, it's an agreement that we can post the data online. That's our contractual agreement. Data is available in near real time. It's posted every night. So that means you can look and see as data is accumulating and what's trending. Currently, we just have the current vintage available. Future versions of this tool will enable multi-year comparisons. So if you're looking at, say, growing degree days and rainfall, and you're saying, wow, this is similar to, you know, 2018, you can kind of overlay the 2018 data with the current vintage and see if we're seeing similar trends. Data visible on the vintage portal is anonymous. So there's, you know, if you look at it, your data point is just a blue dot, just like everyone else's data point. Right now we're very aware of this, and which is why we are not going as granular in you know, each AVA, because if there's only 3 people in an AVA or 4 people in an AVA, then it'd be pretty obvious whose data was whose, and we're very sensitive to making sure that the data is anonymous and your confidentiality is maintained. Now the data is visible to ETS clients. You have to be able to log into the website, into your dashboard in order to see it. And we believe that possibly future versions will only be available to people who actually participate. Okay, so if you are participating and by that I mean you're providing the data, then you can see it. And if you're just curious what's going on in other regions, you can always look and see what's going on in other regions as well. But once again, the data is available to ETS clients only.
Rich,
Yep.
I have a question. Is it possible to separate the Willamette Valley from rest of Oregon for Pinot comparison?
Absolutely. So we have the ability to go as granular as we want, down to a single AVA, or if there aren't as many data points and we want a stronger trend line, then we would combine AVAs in the same region. But certainly we have the ability with the tool set to get as granular as a single AVA. Okay. And so just to show you that in 2018, when we first rolled this up, we had a few participants. In 2019, we had more. And then as we get into 2021, I'd love to see 100% of our clients, opt in and do this. I don't expect that will happen. Over time it will, but we hope we're getting more data, because the more data you have, obviously the stronger the trend lines. And once again, just to show how some of this looks, this is Oregon Pinot Noir pH and potassium, and I talked earlier about if you have higher potassium, you have higher pH. And so the blue dots 2014, and the black line is the 2014 trend line. The green line is the 2019 trend line, and those red dots are the 2019 data. So you can see quite clearly that potassiums were higher in 2014 than 2019, and correspondingly pH was higher. So it could be something very easy as, early on, you see that we're trending with higher potassium or higher pH, and that gives you an idea of what's going to happen as you're getting nearer time to harvest your grapes, and gives you a little bit of time to look in and plan for any big changes that are occurring that particular year. So that's the Vintage Portal, and like I said, it's pretty straightforward on every label, and this is an old label. This year we're rolling out separate juice and separate berry labels with specific analyses for the juice and berries. But they still will have down on the bottom this two little blocks that say AVA and VAR for AVA and varietal. The website will have the AVA and varietal codes. I just put up the AVA codes for Oregon. So right now we can, answer Sebastian's question. We can have Willamette Valley separate, or if we want, we could to have a better trend set, maybe group together 3 or 4 AVAs and call that the greater Willamette area or something, if we have enough data. If there's enough data just to have trends in Willamette Valley, we could do that as well. And then the varietal codes, once again, that's a long list. I'm not putting it up here, but that's on the website as well. So everything has a 2-letter varietal code and a 2-letter AVA code. And with that, simply putting that information in, you join the community. And over the years, we've done a number of projects, a couple with the Cellar Crawl group. And these projects have, if you will, lifted the boat for the entire industry up there. As we conduct these studies, everyone learns from them. And so I think this tool is something I think that can benefit the industry. And I really hope that the community embraces it in such a way so that we can have another tool to give us a little bit more insight into what's occurring real time during harvest. And so that's all I'm going to say about the Vintage Portal. But when you stop in to drop off your samples, certainly there will be information at the front desk on the varietals and AVAs. And if you are sending samples in by courier and you forget to put it on there or don't have the information available at the time, you can always call in and they'll be happy to enter the data for you. Okay, so what else is new for ETS or newly available for use? There's some fun things that we're developing And I will tell you, as a microbiologist, you know, there are questions we can't answer a lot of times. And one of those questions is about stuck or sluggish fermentations and what causes them. And there are a lot of things that can cause them, but I'm very interested in what we call grape pathogenesis related proteins. So these are proteins that are produced by the plant in response to either biotic or abiotic stress. So biotic stress, of course, would be fungi or bacteria, or maybe you could even say insect damage, or you might even want to count humans in as biotic stress, although maybe what we do creates an abiotic stress. But bottom line is, it's either, you know, stress causes production of these proteins. And the proteins in particular that we're currently looking at are a protein called chitinase, one called thaumatin-like protein, or TLP, and another one called Vitis vinifera antimicrobial peptide, or VVAMP1. And so these are produced by the plant in response to biotic and abiotic stress, and they are antimicrobial. Okay, this is part of the plant's defense mechanism against fungal attack. And we often forget that yeast are fungi. And so I've always wondered if having high levels of these proteins, they by themselves might not necessarily cause a stuck fermentation or a sluggish fermentation. But if there are other factors contributing that are stressing the yeast, maybe these could be the straw that breaks the camel's back and contribute. And so, you know, whenever you see moldy grapes or any rot or anything like that, you can be sure that we're getting production of these. And I'd also like to extend that to things like vineyard management. So canopy management, dropping crop, any of these things, when you wound the plant responds systemically, the entire plant does, and possibly getting higher levels of these proteins. So the first one I'll talk about is chitinase. Chitin is a primary cell wall component for pathogenic fungi as well as yeast. It's a major part. It's also a component in crustacean and insect exoskeleton. So chitin is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. And so the plant has figured out that if it creates an enzyme that can break down chitin, that's the first part of its defense system. It hydrolyzes chitin, and it damages the fungal or yeast cell wall. So that's the outer covering. So that's the first thing it does, is it damages that cell wall. And these enzymes can be expressed what we call constitutively. That means they're always on, but at low levels. But certainly the expression of the enzymes, or production of the enzymes, can be dramatically enhanced by a number of both abiotic agents and biotic factors. Okay, so anything that stresses the plant can produce these. And so just a quick look at the cell wall. You've got this layer of chitin in the cell wall, and below that you have the membrane. Just as an additional thing, a lot of people don't realize, or they only think of beta glucans as a problem when there's botrytis. But the reality is that beta glucans are every Saccharomyces, every yeast has beta glucans in the cell wall. And so we always will find low levels of beta glucans in wines. And then if you've got a wine that's never seen botrytis, but you have extended contact with the lees, a lot of batonnage, you can extract quite a bit of beta glucan and have real issues with turbidity and filtration just from Saccharomyces beta glucan. But that's just a side topic. But anyways, so you've got the cell wall. So the chitinase breaks down the cell wall. The next one is the thaumatin-like protein, which we just call TLP. And these are members of a pathogenesis-related protein family called PR5. And they're also classified as something called osmotins. And we, interestingly, way back when I was doing research in what genes were expressed in grapes as they ripened, just looking at, we're looking at deficit irrigation and differentials in gene expression during deficit irrigation, post-veraison, we saw that these osmotins were always upregulated. So once again, deficit irrigation, deficit is what I call an abiotic stress, but it causes increase in the production of these enzymes. And what they do is they act by enhancing the permeability of the fungal membrane. So they cause actual rupture of the fungal plasma membrane. So the chitinase breaks down the cell wall, and then the TLP causes problems with the membrane. And I always, people often ask me when I'm giving seminars, we talk about live cells and dead cells, what my definition of life is. And when it, and I'm not going to get philosophical here, but when I talk about a microbe, I tell them if the cell membrane is intact and functional, and by that I mean the cell membrane is keeping the outside out and the inside in, then the cell is alive. But when that cell membrane breaks down or is no longer capable of preventing escape of things from the inside or prevent entry of things from the outside, then the cell is dead. And what this particular these proteins do is they damage or they affect the permeability and ability of the membrane to stay intact. So these will kill the cell. The other one, the Vitis vinifera antimicrobial peptide, encodes for a gene called a plant defensin. And once again, this is something that's expressed when the plant is being attacked by microbes. It's an antifungal activity protein. Once again, alters the membrane permeability of the fungal pathogens, just like the TLP does. It also has some ability to affect bacterial pathogens as well, and certainly gram-positive bacteria. So once again, these are proteins produced by the plant either in response to infection or in response to things that are going on around the plant, such as, like I said, stresses due to temperature, stresses due to water deficit, stresses due to human intervention. So these are expressed. And so we wanted to look into these. And once again, initially, I was very interested in looking into these in the context of looking and seeing if they were at higher levels in stuck or sluggish fermentation. So what we did is we had people, if they had grapes coming in and they had, stuck fermentations, or sometimes they would have stuck fermentations and good fermentations from the same vineyard and the same varietal. We were kind of doing some comparisons between what was going on with these. And I should tell you that this is generally a white wine problem only, because in red wines, these proteins get bound up fairly quickly to tannins once you release everything and crush everything in the juice. And they also, of course, can be bound up by any type of a tannin, white wine tannin addition or white juice tannin addition, enological tannins. So we developed antibodies targeted each of these pathogenesis proteins, and we developed ELISA tests, which are is a term we use in microbiology. It's an enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay test, so that we can actually measure these proteins. You may have heard of ELISA test or ELISA testing with the COVID pandemic, because if you get a test for the presence of antibodies against COVID, or if you get a test, there were some tests that were antibody tests where you were checking to see if you had the virus, and these were some really fast tests, really quick ones. They used an ELISA type assay. So it's very sensitive. It's an assay that's been well developed and used in the industry for many, many years. And so we just adapted that technology as a way of developing a method to detect these proteins. And so we have validated the chitinase and thaumatin-like protein. With everything that happened last year, we didn't really have a lot of time to look at the VVAMP one, but the chitinase and thaumatin are sort of the big ones, so those are the ones we focused on. An ELISA assay is pretty straightforward. You have a 96 well plate coated with a capture antibody. You add your sample, and if the protein is present, it binds to that capture antibody. You then put a detecting antibody on it, and through a series of reactions, if you have your target protein in the sample, so if you've got these pathogenesis proteins in your juice, you'll get a color change. It's that simple. And when you and like I said, widely used. In this case, we use it for detecting these pathogenesis proteins, and it's very sensitive, down to 3 micrograms per mil. In most cases, what we're measuring are the presence in milligrams of protein. So, and this is what it looks like. You got a 96 well plate, and those blue wells are ones that have are positive for the presence of these proteins, and the yellow ones were ones that are not present. Okay, so very simple, and you can read with the spectrophotometer, and the amount of, the darker the blue, the more of the protein in there. So it's a quantitative assay. So how are we using these? Well, when we first got these, we started using them to investigate levels of pathogenesis proteins in stuck or sluggish fermentations. We were looking for this correlation between presence of certain levels and stuck ferments. And this is not easy to do, because you've got to, find people who have stuck fermentations, things that you think are going to be relevant. And so these were 3 wines, and it's a small data set, folks, where these were white wines. S means stuck, C means control. And what they mean by that is these were these instances where I was able to find people that had grapes from the same vineyard. They may have processed them differently, but at the point in the fermentation where they started getting stuck, we were measuring these proteins, and we saw quite a bit less protein in the controls and more of these proteins in the stuck ferments. And once again, a very small data set, so I wouldn't go telling you that we've figured out why there are stuck fermentations. Many of you know Linda Bassan from UC Davis. Linda spent, I don't know, 10 years looking at all the things that can cause stuck fermentations, and there are a lot of them. But this may be one of them. But once again, as a factor involved in it. But the data was pretty interesting, and so that gave us an idea we'd move forward with it. But we didn't do any of this last year. As I said, we got a little preoccupied last year with other issues. But meanwhile, we had it. I think it was Scott Labs called us, and they wanted to know if we had a way to look at changes in protein levels in juice or during fermentation. And in particular, they had some new types of bentonite, which they were recommending people use to add to juice or add during fermentation. So we thought, well, we can try this. I mean, why not? And so what we did was we had them had clients submit samples, and when you do a standard protein analysis or heat stability test, you sterile filter, if it's a wine, the wine, and then you heat it or cook it, and then you look for changes in turbidity. Now, I don't know about any of you, but if you've ever tried sterile filtering juice, it doesn't work really well. It's hard. And so that's why we've never offered a heat stability or protein finding trial on juice, or even during fermentation. It's always on finished wines. But we thought we'd give it a try to see if this might be a way of looking at the process. And so what we have here are blue bars, which are chitinase. The orange bars are the NTUs. Okay, and then down along the bottom, you can see no bentonite added, 1 pound, 2 pound, 3 pound, 4 pound, 5 pound. And you can see there's a really strong correlation between the amount of chitinase and the turbidity once you heat the sample. And what we were hoping to do is like I said, on the one where we're looking at NTUs, we sterile filtered it and cooked it as we would normally do for a heat stability. And like I said, that's a pain trying to filter juice. And then on the chitinase ones, we just took the juice and tested it for chitinase after the bentonite finding. And so there was a really good correlation. So this is pretty interesting. We're excited about that, and we tried it again. That was when we first had the chitinase, and when the TLP, we got that assay working. We did the same thing, and once again over here on the right, you can see on the left the NTUs, TLP, and chitinase. And once again, elevated levels with no bentonite, and then you can see the response of bentonite, chitinase dropping, TLP dropping, NTUs dropping, and once again, a very strong correlation between low levels of protein, because you find it out, and if you will, heat stability. So this gave us a tool so that we could actually measure, the efficacy, or if someone wanted to add bentonite to juice, to do that step early on, or bentonite to a fermentation, we saw that it was a good way to actually show them that their bentonite addition was working. And as an aside, if we do see, for example, as we continue with our in-house investigations, if we do see that there appears to be a correlation between elevated levels of these proteins and a stuck or sluggish fermentation, then it would seem to be pretty easy to do a bentonite fining, and that would remove these proteins. And if that was the cause of the stuck or sluggish fermentation, you would be able to then hopefully get your fermentation restarted without much problem. So this is a kind of two approaches with using this tool, but this one is ready to go right now. And if you're interested in doing bentonite fining in your juices, you can talk to Sebastian. He has products. And then this would be a test if you wanted to see how well it was working. Okay. The next thing we wanted to do was use it as a tool to look at unusual heat stability trial results. And if you've done heat stability trials with ETS, you know that we expect a linear response. That is, the more bentonite we add, we expect the NTUs to decrease. So increasing bentonite addition, decreasing NTUs. But we don't always see that. A couple years ago, we started seeing a lot of issues doing heat stability trials on rosés. Okay, so unusual behavior with rosés, where the data was like I said, didn't make a lot of sense. As I said before, we expect a linear response. So as you increase with bentonite, you have a decrease in NTU, and it should be a nice linear response like that. And you want to get down below that 1 NTU. But instead, what we were seeing was on this top, this is kind of what you'd see, although it wasn't dropping as much as you want. We'd see somewhere it goes up and down, somewhere it goes down and goes back up. We were seeing all of these very strange results, including some where there was almost no impact of bentonite. And these were in rosés, and you know, we don't have a theory as to, I mean, we have some theories as to what might be going on. But the idea being that now that we have this test, what I hope to do is kind of, flag these heat stability trials that are giving us atypical results, and actually go in and measure the levels of protein and see if is the protein decreasing in a linear fashion, and there's something else that's causing this, or is something interfering with the protein binding by bentonite. So it'll give us another tool to look at these unusual results and maybe get an idea of what's going on, because right now we really don't know, and we just have some theories. One of these theories, we think that protective colloids, either phenolic or polysaccharide, can interact with proteins and or the bentonite and prevent binding. We have seen some instances where wines, rosés, would not stabilize at all, and then just a treatment with something like Scottzyme KS, which is a broad spectrum polysaccharide degrading enzyme, and now all of a sudden you see a linear response with bentonite. So that would indicate in some cases it may be an interaction with polysaccharides. Because they're rosés, it could be something with phenolics as well. I don't really know. It could also be that colloids are preventing proteins from forming that unstable conformation after heating, and so bentonite fining can potentially remove some of these colloids, and that disturbances the balance between protein and colloid, and then you get no clear pattern between bentonite addition and haze production. Bentonite is something that we add that has a negative charge to it. It is not specific to anything in the wine. It will bind up anything that has a positive net charge. So we know that it removes protein, but we don't really know if it's removing other things as well. And once again, we see some very unusual results with rosés or these atypical protein finding trials. Another idea that people have put out there is that polyphenols present in rosés may be oxidized during the heating test, and they may be contributing to a haze formation that's independent of bentonite fining. And then finally, it could be that these hazes produced after heating may be due to everything, polysaccharides, polyphenols, pectins, a whole bunch of things. So once again, we don't really know what's causing these atypical bentonite fining results with rosés. I know more and more people are making rosés. I'm really happy that that's occurring because I really like rosé, especially in the summer. But we do see problems with them. And when you make a beautiful rosé and you want to heat stabilize, and it says you've got to add 10 pounds of bentonite per 1,000 gallons to stabilize it, you don't want to do that. And so, so what we're hoping to do is maybe look into some of these and get a better understanding of what's causing that haze, and if it really is potentially a risk to the wine, or if it's not. And so stay tuned on that. We will, be doing more trials there. Finally, I'm very curious as to how viticulture and winemaking practices impact production of pathogenesis proteins. I mean, canopy management, cropping, these are, whether you think of it or not, you're actually going out and wounding the plant. Okay, you're wounding the grapevine. And in response to that, we get a situation where these proteins are being expressed. So if there's anyone out there who has got a vineyard that they're really managing, and it's picture perfect vineyard, and they also have the opportunity to get some fruit from a vineyard that's more wild, I'd love to be able to get juice from you from the two different vineyard management practices. And so I can look and see if we are seeing more of these proteins in more intensively managed vineyards. Because perhaps if you're intensively managing the vineyard, it looks really nice, but maybe you're creating more of these proteins, and therefore that may require more protein fining to get the wine stable. Don't know, but I'd really like to look into that. And like I said, contact me if you have a situation where you've got vineyards like that with vastly different management styles that you're making wine from. It's quite possible that extended maceration and lees contact, pressing, fining, all of these things will impact the amount of protein, if you will, squeezed out, the amount of protein in the wine, and then fining, of course, at removing protein. So all of these things can probably contribute to the impact on these. And then lastly, we hope to get a better idea of how these proteins interact in colloidal stability. So not just a heat instability, but then down the road as you get hazes as the wines age or as they interact with other things. So that's something that's relatively new. Once again, on the pathogenesis, on the stuck and sluggish side, we're still doing investigations. So if you've got some fermentations, white fermentations that are stuck, and you want to contact me, I'd be happy to look at some of those samples. But at the same time, if you're thinking of doing bentonite fining in your juice, and you want to see how that's working, then certainly let us know. We can help you on that. So what's new in microbiology? Because being the microbiology guy, I always have something to tell you. As you know, there's a lot of commercial non-Saccharomyces yeast available. We've got Metschnickauia, Pulcherrima, Turlispora delbrueckii, Latantia thermotolerans, and Pichia cluveri, I think are the ones, the main ones we see. And those are broken down. I think Scott Labs has a product called Gaia, which is a Metschnickauia. And even though it's Metschnickauia fructicola, we can detect that. They've got the Metschnickauia pulcherrima. Biodiva has Torulaspora, and Lactia has Latantia thermotolerans. And that was last year. You'd have to ask Sebastian, there may be more. But these products are available. I think if you go, Lafor has Egide, which is Torulaspora and Metschnickauia, and Alpha TD, and then Guzmer also has some products. So several of these non-Saccharomyces yeast are available commercially. and people are using them. And you can control or outcompete undesirable yeast strains during cold soak and early fermentation. So generally, you put these in. They only have an alcohol tolerance of maybe 4 to 5%. So you put those in early. They prevent other strains from growing. So you don't have a big population of Hansenia spora or Pichia, which can create problems with ethyl acetate and or VA. So people are doing that. Supposedly you're going to have more aromatic complexity because with different yeast, you have the release of different enzymes, different types of glycosylase enzymes. So you can release different compounds that you might not release with just a standard Saccharomyces. You can get increased esters. I think Lachantia has been shown to bioacidify. So you can actually, if you've got something on a year where your pHs are high and your TAs are low, you can increase acidity. And then you can, in some cases, increase polysaccharides in mouthfeels by using these non-Saccharomyces yeast. So we developed some diagnostics. So we have a non-Saccharomyces panel, or you can look at the individual strains for any of these 4 yeast. So if you're putting them in and you want to see if they actually work, great, we can tell you that. And we also have the juice yeast scorpion panel, which has got Zygosac, Hansenia spora, Pichia, and Brettanomyces. So these are all of, if you will, the non-Saccharomyces species that we can detect, and you can see how they play together. Okay, and that's what I think a lot of people are doing is they're looking at implantation success of the commercial non-Saccharomyces yeast. They're looking at compatibility issues. If you are paying to put in 2 non-Saccharomyces yeast, are they both working? Or if you decide that you want to put 2 or 3, maybe you want to bioacidify and maybe you want to build mouthfeel. Do those non-Saccharomyces yeast get along, or does one kill the other, and then it's a waste of money? And then also compatibility with different commercial Saccharomyces cerevisiae strains. There's been some work done with that, but once again, you want to make sure if you're putting in a non-Saccharomyces yeast, it's not going to have any type of a negative impact with your commercial strain you're putting in. So we now have the tools for you to actually look and see what's going on there. We'll leave it at that. But if you have any questions, you can call me or ask any of the ladies at the lab, and they'll be able to help you out. I don't really want to talk about smoke analysis much, but just to give you an update, what I'm hoping this year is we're not going to be actually looking for smoke impact on grapes, but we have a lot of people that want to baseline what their grapes and juice and wine, or the grapes and wine, look like in years where there's been no smoke impact. So they've got that data set, their baseline. Go to our website, and we've got a combined extended volatile and glycosylated smoke impact panel. It is the state of the art and gives you both the extended volatile markers as well as the glycosylated markers. Those are the ones that are the bound ones, bound to sugar. We work closely with the AWRI to develop the glycosylated marker analysis, which is an HPLC triple quad method, whereas the volatile compounds is a gas chromatography method. So right now, if you send in for the combined panel, you'll get a lot of data, and we'll help you go through it and look at it. But this is really the state of the art right now. Like I said, what I'm hoping is that nobody has to run it this year because of smoke impact, but instead they're running it because they want to baseline their data. So keep that in mind. And like I said, if you have any questions, call the lab. Eric Hervé, who's our specialist in this, has been giving a number of seminars. He wrote a really good article, which is in the 2021 Harvest Guide, detailing some of our findings so far. But what I'll tell you now is we have the tools to start answering a lot of questions. By this time next year, we'll know a lot more, especially about these glycosylated compounds and their stability. So stay tuned. Okay, and like I said, any questions, talk to Eric. He'll probably be giving a seminar on this up to the Oregon industry in the near future. And last but not least, as I've run out of time, but I would be remiss if I gave any kind of pre-harvest talk and did not remind everyone about, if you have a sucker sluggish fermentation, don't sit and wait, okay? Because you will get VA production if you do. So remember, if you have a stuck or sluggish fermentation, check your pH. If the pH starts going up, that shouldn't be happening. Baseline and monitor your malic levels. You can bring it to the lab for that, or if you do chromatography, paper chromatography, whatever you do, monitor your malic levels. If malic levels start to drop and you're still in a stuck fermentation mode and you have sugar, then you better check to see what's causing it. Is it a heterofermented lactic acid bacteria? Is it something like Enococcus or Lactobacillus conchii or brevis? Then you've got to jump into action. And there's plenty of products. Bactolus is one I really like. Lysozyme works as well to knock those out. So if you start with stuck fermentation, make sure you baseline and monitor malic. That's the most important thing. And I will tell you that to this day, I think VA formation is probably the #1 wine spoilage problem that faces the industry. And I can say that because I believe in the Napa Sonoma wine region, we have, I believe it's 4, maybe 5 companies that do VA removal. And that's what they do. If you call them up, it's usually weeks to get an appointment, sometimes months, all right? And some years where we get a lot of VA. So VA is an issue, and it is the most avoidable problem, okay? And where we see it really get, goes off very quickly is if you have a stuck fermentation, and once the malic is gone, you've got a big population of bacteria that goes after the sugar. And just remember, 1 gram of sugar can yield 0.2 of a gram of VA. So 5 grams of sugar is a gram of VA. So anyways, with that, I just always have to get on that soapbox. I will just say thank you very much for attending this seminar. Once again, Sebastian's going to make this available, but you can also contact ETS if you want. And once again, there's my email and phone number, and this is all going to be available. I'm always there to talk with everyone. It's what I really enjoy doing. And so with that, I think I'm finished and I can take any questions. I don't know if people are going to call in or they're going to chat on questions.
The questions, yeah, there are a few that were typed in on chat.
Okay, yeah. Yes, great. Okay, well, thank you. I didn't have that open when I had my screen open. So, okay, so if I'm missing a couple of AVAs, then good. Send me that information. That list was a couple years ago. I know we're adding them all the time. We just added 2 in Sonoma. And so, yes, by all means. And then, of course, the tricky part is coming up with a 2-letter code for that. I don't think I've used TH yet. And so if not, that's what it'll be. But I'll check back because it's AVAs up and down the West Coast. So there's a lot of them. So anyways, as far as we have a question here, do you have any easy lists available for non-sac and sac strains that do not play well together? At this time, no. We just came up with this. I will tell you that most of the non-sac strains that they're using, they have, I believe, vetted with various Saccharomyces strains, but I just would say that that's something I would always, at least the first time you're using a combination, check. Okay, so if you are using these non-sac strains and then you inoculate, if things go well, great. If they seem to be starting off a little slower, not working, then give me a call and we'll come up with a way to look at the Saccharomyces populations and see if there's some type of negative interaction. But right now, no list. It's just a possibility. Okay, that's somewhat in the literature. Anything else? All right. Okay, well, in that case, thank you very much. I know we get a slightly late start, but I'm going to turn the meeting back over to Sebastian. And once again, thank you very much. And any questions, you can either email me or, of course, give me a call. Thanks. Bye now.
Thank you, Richard, for your presentation. It was great information, and we appreciate always in Oregon that it's focused Oregon. A lot of webinar always talking about the Napa, California wine industry, and we understand that it's 85% or 86% of the production in the United States. However, it's so great to have this data from the Oregon, and I'm glad also to know that people will be able to use the portal focused with the Willamette Valley. Oregon, it's pretty long state as well. The data from the south doesn't look like the same than the data from the Willamette Valley. So I'm very excited to know that people will be able to use the portal. So I encourage everybody to use that portal. It's here for their benefits as well. So this information are capital to be able to produce good wines live as well. When you get the data live, that can change your method of procedure and protocol of winemaking that specific vintage. So thank you for that. Don, I did a quick introduction, so I'm very excited to have you. You know, sanitization, cleaning is always a big topic, and I'm glad we're able to talk about that pre-harvest. You've been in the industry of the Pepsi industry, Frito-Lay, brewery industry. We talk about sanitization in this industry, but the wine industry, sometimes we feel and we're always a little behind, and then not every winery have some very sharp protocol of cleaning and sanitization. So I'm glad you bring that slide for us. So I'm going to give you the end of the meeting now and put you the host, and you will be able to share your screen and do your presentation. And when you're done, you can give the hand back to me and I will be able to do that.
No problem.
Thank
and
you.
while he's doing that, I have been in the industry a long time. You probably now see two Don Jones up on the deal. That is the other one is Bob Barrett, who will be at our booth tomorrow. And let me make sure I am hitting the right buttons here.
We can see your presentations. Good.
Okay. And
yes.
So anyway, what mentioned, I am a food safety instructor with Washington State, and I don't know what this my screen is. There you go. With Washington State, one of the instructors at the November food safety workshop. Also work with Penn State at their in October at their food plant sanitation workshop. But what we're going to talk about, I'm going to give a real general basic cleaning and basic sanitizers. I will talk about some of the products that we do have at Crush the Grape, and a few that we also have available to help in your sanitation process. But as we look at sanitation, basically, as it applies to the winery, and we do a lot of brewery work also, is cleaning is just removing soil from the surface, and these soils are these any unwanted, undesirable material. Basically, it's the residue from your winemaking procedure. And the reason we clean is so we can sanitize, because sanitizing is basically treating a clean surface to get that bacteria load down to a safe level or a workable level. So again, you have to clean prior to sanitizing. So as we look then at the cleaning process, we look at the types of soils that you're going to encounter in your cleaning operation. And the first category was referred to as an organic soil, and these are the fats, oils, greases, proteins, starches. Basically, an organic soil came from something that was alive. So in y'all's case, your grapes were alive. So the residue that is left over after your fermentation process and your crushing process and is an organic soil. And so we have to look at what chemistry will remove organic soils. The next type of soil is referred to as an inorganic soil, and that's the rust or the scale that is usually comes from the water. But in y'all's case, there's also some inorganic components that come from the grapes themselves. But again, these inorganic soils require a different kind of chemistry to remove than an organic soil, and we'll get in that in just a minute. The next thing we look at is a combination soil referred to as stones. And as you can see here, several industries get their own fancy name. Milkstone, beer stone, mineral oil stone is from the meat industry. Basically, a stone is where you have such a poor cleaning procedure that you're leaving organic soils on your equipment that will then grab the inorganic soils, they'll combine, and it's a very tough soil to remove. So the bottom line is you want to make sure your cleaning procedures that are in place will remove the organic and inorganic so that you don't form stones that require a little extra work to get off. So now we've gone over the two types of soils. We're going to look now at the chemistry involved in cleaning. And our chemistry falls into two categories. It's either going to be an alkaline product or an acid product. And sometimes people will refer to alkaline cleaners as caustic cleaners. And basically how to decide if a product is an acid cleaner or an alkaline cleaner is you look at the pH of the product. And I'm not going to go into the chemistry definition of pH. All I need you to know is where to look at on your SDS sheet of your chemistry you're using, which is section 9, and it will tell you the pH of the chemistry you're using to clean your plant. And if it has a pH greater than 7, it's an alkaline cleaner. And once it gets out to the 11, 12, 13 range, we start calling them caustic cleaners. And if it's an acid, it'll have a pH less than 7. And most of the acid products we're going to be talking about are out at the 2 or 3 pH range. So again, these are the how you decide what type of cleaner you're looking for. As you look at alkaline cleaners will remove your organic soils. And the little coupon I'm showing you there is an example is if you get your stainless steel clean and you're to the rinse step, the water, let me get my pointer going here. The water should sheen off the stainless steel once you get to the rinse step. If you have water that is beading like this on your stainless steel, I don't need to do an ATP test or a special swab or whatever. I can tell you without doing any special test that you did not get that stainless steel clean. So it's a first visual check of did you get your equipment clean, is look how the water is sheening off the equipment. So as we look then at the specialty cleaning industry and the alkaline cleaners that you're using, there's 3 major sources of alkalinity in the cleaners that are typically used in your industry. And it's either going to be a sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide, or sodium carbonate. And the one kind of link amongst these cleaners is they all work better when they're heated. So any cleaner that you buy from us will give you a recommended temperature to use them at. And the flip side is if you cannot reach those temperatures, there's some other tricks that will tell you that you have to do on concentration because you're not getting the temperature to get the optimal use out of these cleaners. So again, when I get into our products, I'll let you know which ones are sodium, potassium, or sodium carbonate. The other thing about these caustic cleaners, potassium hydroxide is usually a more expensive cleaner, but the benefit if you do use a potassium hydroxide is it rinses a lot better. So if time is an issue, you can go to potassium hydroxide, and when you get finished with your cleaning process, it will rinse a lot easier than sodium hydroxide. So then as you look at our industry, we're not going to be, at least Wesmar, we're not selling you straight caustic products like the powdered caustic pail or whatever, which is a commodity product that you might be using. The products that we're going to be offering to you have additives in them. And the additives that are typically in our caustic products are gluconate, heptanate, CDTA, sodium methyl-silicates, or sodium percarbonate are some of the additives that we offer. And the reason we do this is mainly on one, helping soil penetration by giving you these additives. The products just work better, and then definitely on the rinsability. These additives help them when you get to the rinse step to keep those soils suspended so you don't have to take as much time rinsing. So normally any built caustic you would see from us or any of our competitors will normally have at least gluconate in it, very typical additive. Most of ours, all except one of ours, actually has glucoheptanate, which is, chemists will tell you about 10 times better than gluconate. And then the Cadillac additive is EDTA. So if you're having a cleaning issue, especially related to hard water issues, because hard water will affect the cleaning ability of your chemicals, we would go with the EDTA additive to help you. And then the sodium percarbonate, think of OxyClean, and that's an additive that we would add. It's not built into the product. It would be something that we would add into the process during the cleaning process to help, and I'll go into that in a little more detail. The reason additives are important is if you have the wrong built product in your process, you just won't get the soils lifted off, or you'll get the soils clinging to the stainless. And again, as you see in this picture, we got a call a number of years ago from a customer we had forever saying, hey, what's going on? Now, we don't recommend you set fittings like this at the bottom of the tank during CIP, but that's what they did. And after the cleaning process, he had this film left over. This is a customer we had in Portland. What he didn't tell us, he had built an operation down in New Mexico with a much harder water. So he basically had the wrong built product in the plant to get the job done. So we sent him the proper caustic product down, and as you can see there on the next slide, it did get the stainless clean. So again, if you don't have the right built product, there's not enough surfactants, wetting agents, or whatever to suspend these soils so that they'll rinse away and they'll end up replating back out on your stainless steel. Kind of a visual check. If you have just a gluconated caustic, normally gluconated caustic are these clear color, and then a caustic that has gluconate and glucoheptanate will have this brown look to it. And again, almost all, I think actually all our products have a little gluconate in them, and so they'll usually have a brown color. So kind of a visual check if you've taken that next step up on your built caustics. It's a slide that's not so much related to wineries, but I just wanted to show you the difference of having the right product for the right application. And we got called into a plant pre-season, and they couldn't get their stainless clean or their floors clean with the products they have. So we brought in a very heavily built caustic product, and I just sprayed some on the floor. And you can see how it literally melted away the soils that were built up. So again, as we look at the products we offer you, and as you call your Wesmar rep, and your two reps there in the Oregon area are Bob Barrett and Chris Jackson, they're going to be asking a lot of questions about your water hardness. And the reason they're doing that is to make sure we recommend the correct product for the cleaning application. So the products that we offer and that you'll see from us is our Liquid Excel line, is our caustic line. The LF product stands for low foam, a really good product because it's heavily built with a lot of surfactants. Same thing for the 45. These two, LF and Liquid Excel 45, are our two most heavily built products. Probably won't have a need to foam caustic in a winery, but if you ever do need to foam caustic, we do have a high foam version that you could put it in a foam applicator and foam it on the surface. And if you like working with powders, our powdered caustic is Excel APA. I want to quickly jump over to a term you might hear your chemical vendors talk about, referred to as degreasers. These are, again, degreasers that are designed to be used in food processing, wineries, breweries. They're not petroleum-based or water-based. And so if you have an application that you need for something that doesn't have as much caustic, but you have a soil there, they're very surfactant loaded, so a lot less caustic and a lot more surfactants. And again, they're designed for the food industry. Low alkalinity, they're soft metal safe because they're buffered. So if you have some equipment that's not all stainless, you need to look at getting clean, say some painted steel legs from something, or some plastic parts, aluminum parts. Again, would be offering you a degreaser. Our best ones are our liftoff SGF. The SGS stands for Simple Green Food. If any of y'all have ever used Simple Green at home, our liftoff is Simple Green on steroids, and the F means that it's not scented. Again, you don't ever want to use a scented product in a food operation because I know wineries don't get inspected that much by auditors, but an auditor thinks you're trying to cover up a micro issue if you're using a scented product. So we have a low foam version and an ultra low foam version of those two products. Some other products that we offer through Crush Distiller is we do offer a foaming product called FRM 63P. This is a non-chlorinated foaming product. We do have our FRM 63 line, also has several chlorinated foam products. But again, I know wineries really don't like bringing chlorine into your operation. This is a very good foaming product to clean the outside of your equipment. Our Glow Sand NCLF, if any of y'all use the 5-star product called PBW, this is our version of PBW. We think is just as good, if not better. Our Press Bride is an oxidizer. Again, think OxyClean. This was designed to clean out our destain equipment or destain filters. We also have a Press Bride B. We put the B on there to really aim at the brewery industry. But there's some interesting things we could do with this product, especially if you're getting staining on your equipment on some of your dark wines that you're having trouble getting off. We could use this Press Bride in conjunction with the caustic wash to help do a really great destain. Our Supreme is a powdered manual cleaner. The Glow Sand PBW is more for CIP of equipment that doesn't have all stainless steel. Supreme is more designed to be a manual cleaner, and again, a good powdered manual cleaner. Next, we want to talk about what acid cleaners do. And acid cleaners are designed to remove inorganic soil, so your rust and your scale. And this is a big time way over dramatization or picture of what a rust stain would look like. Normally, as your equipment gets older, you might, if you have a lot of iron in your water, you might see this color of not so much of a stain, but in the pits, as your stainless steel gets older, you'll start seeing little iron dots forming on your stainless. And again, just we need a good acid wash to get it off. This is the picture of hard water scale that can form inside of pipes. The most common acid cleaners in the food industry are phosphoric and nitric acid. When I started in this industry, more years I want to talk about, we use a lot of phosphoric acid. Europe used a lot of nitric. So back about 40 years ago, the cleaning industry started bringing over nitric. But FOS really shines stainless steel. So what you see here in the US, we do a blended acid. So we blend phosphoric and nitric together. So it gets the cost down, but it also gives you that great nitric hit and does a real good job of inorganic soil removal. Some other acids you might see out on the market is sulfuric. Some vendors will sell what they call a triple blend acid. They'll blend phosphoric, nitric, and sulfuric together. Highly recommend you stay away from that. Yeah, it lowers the price, but the dirty little secret on sulfuric acid is that it's corrosive to stainless steel at low concentrations. So what I mean by that is it'll if you don't get a good rinse and leave a residue of sulfuric, it'll start breaking down your stainless. And it can take 4 or 5 years, but when that stainless goes, if you're using a triple blend acid, you can't repair it, you can't buff it out, you can't passivate it out. Sulfamic acid is a great little powdered acid, used more for soft metal applications. So if you have any soft metal, maybe coils, cooling coils, stuff like that, that need to be descaled, would probably recommend our sulfamic. Citric, a lot of y'all are probably using citric, great cleaner. When you look at cost though, using citric is probably the most expensive way to get an acid wash or rinse. So I'd highly recommend you take a look at using one of our blended acids. 1 and 2, we think, especially the nitric, does a great job of going after the inorganic soils. So the products you'll see from us are BSR 10W, 10W LP, and LP Plus. The LP Plus is a product we use if you need to have us, is a single step acid product we have. So if you want to do some acid washes that will also maybe take out a little of the organic soils, that's what the Plus. The ULP is a really low phosphoric, almost straight nitric. That is our product. If you ever ask us to come in and do some passivation of your equipment, we'd bring in the 10W ULP. SaniWash is a great foaming acid we have if you need to shine the outside of your equipment. And then AlumiClean, if you have any aluminum parts, the acid we designed to go after those soils. So now you know about the chemistry. We'll look at the principles of cleaning. And basically, we're going to talk about the factors, which are winds, parameters, tack, and then the process step. So we look at the factors to clean. It's the winds. It stands for water, individual doing the cleaning, nature of the soil and surface you're cleaning. Just remember, water is the biggest component. And again, if you talk to any of our reps, we really want to know what the water hardness is or how soft your water is. It doesn't affect y'all, but we do a lot of cleaning up in Alaska at seafood plants. We have to ask, do they use seawater? Can you heat your water, or is it cold water cleaning, things like that? But the really critical one is how hard is your water? Individual doing the cleaning, who's doing it, how many people you do have doing your cleaning, how long have they been with you, and what's their training level? Some of y'all are, if you're small, you're owning your own operation, you're very diligent. As you grow, you have to hire more people. So you have to really ensure that they're getting the training they need to get the job done. Nature of the soil, again, we're looking at what kind of organics in a winery. We know what we're talking about. Inorganics, we will want to look at the, the water, and we'll do a water sample. And again, are you getting combination soils due to some cleaning issue that's going on in your operation? If you ever call up and say, hey, I've seen, something that, left on my stainless, we'll start asking you questions about what it looks like. And notice protein, if you're leaving protein in your equipment, it'll get a, rainbow color or a blue color. Iron is that round to red to brown. Silica, I don't know what's your silica level over in the Portland area. I live over in Idaho, and we actually have silica mines. So our silica is extremely high in our water here. So something we have to be aware of. Surface being cleaned, hopefully everything is stainless, but you might have plastic. Are your floors concrete? Is it treated concrete? Do you have any aluminum parts in your process? And do you have any painted surfaces? These are the questions we'll ask you so that we'll recommend the right product. The next parameters we want to talk about are tack, and these are the ones that, you learn these and you'll become a chemical sales rep. So we're looking at time, action, concentration, to temperature. The time is just how much time we have totally available to clean your facility. And that time is going to, we're going to recommend for cleaning a tank or any of your operation is the soil type, amount, is there a heat process anywhere in your process, and just the equipment being clean. So again, we've probably seen everything that goes on in your winery and can make appropriate recommendations for how long it'll take to clean a piece of equipment. The action is how you're getting your detergent on the equipment. CIP stands for clean in place. That's probably how you're cleaning any of your tanks and in your operation. COP stands for clean out of place. So if you have a sink that you're putting parts in, that would be a COP type process. Foam cleaning is a great way to get the detergent on the exterior of your equipment. We highly recommend you don't use high pressure. Problem with high pressure is one needs special training, but if the operator lets that high pressure hose and that high pressure water hit the ground, it's just going to blast up bacteria up into the air and recontaminate equipment. And then everybody's favorite is the manual brush cleaning that goes, even if you're doing CIP cleaning, there is parts and fittings that need to be removed and brush cleaned. Concentration, we will make concentration recommendations and for any of our products, and we base that on the nature of the soil and the chemical we're recommending. Testing of this is critical. Test strips will only, or pH test strips will only show you what type of chemistry you have. You want to use test kits to get the amount of chemistry that you're using. And an example of that, if I have 3 1-gallon buckets of water and I put an 1/8 of an ounce, a 1/2 ounce, and 1 ounce of 50% caustic in each bucket, notice it only changed my pH from a 12 down to a 13.1, but my concentration went from a 0.137 to a 1.1%. So that's why it's used. We recommend you use these titration test kits. We have these test kits for any product that we offer. And so we highly recommend that you have them and just spot check your operation. And you should be logging the results. Cleaning temperature, as I've mentioned, especially on these alkaline products, they work better warm. So we will look at, what temperatures we can achieve on your equipment. We'd like, our kind of first rule of thumb is 10 degrees higher than the process temperature. But our main rule is once we decide on a minimum temperature, if we could add 18 to 20 degrees to that temperature, we double the effectiveness of our cleaners, and that rule normally works twice for us. So again, that's why we ask you a lot of questions about your water source, temperature for cleaning and things like that, so we can make the right recommendations with the right concentrations. And hold on just a second. So rinse. The most important step of any cleaning process is the rinse. If you do a proper rinse, you will remove, hold on, I think I got something on my screen. Let me move this out of the way. Sorry about that. If you do a proper rinse, you will get 90 to 98% of the gross soil removed. So if you do a proper rinse, you will use less chemistry. We recommend you do your rinses at 120 degrees or less. So ambient temperature is great for rinses. Don't use hot water because you'll cook on the soils. And again, if you do a proper rinse, you'll just reduce your chemical usage. And so that was TAC. And hold on. And I think I left the slide out for basic process steps. Sorry about that. So the basic process steps, let me go back one, maybe I skipped it. Nope, left it out. Sorry about that. Is you're going to do your pre-rinse, you're going to then do your alkaline wash. The next step is you're going to do a rinse of your alkaline detergent. Then most of y'all should be doing an acid step, whether it be a wash or a rinse. And then you're going to rinse your acid detergent. And at this point, if you're doing a manual process, you want to inspect the tank prior to sanitizing, because usually your sanitizer is your most expensive chemistry. So you don't want to do sanitizing until you're sure you got the the vessel or the piece of equipment you're trying to clean. Then you want to sanitize. And if you're on an automated CIP system, obviously then you would do the inspect after sanitize because it's an automated process. Next, we're going to talk about sanitizers and kind of want to jump into some terms. Sterilize, that's what hospitals do. You're not doing any sterilization out in your winery. I used to not talk a lot about disinfectants, but since COVID, disinfectant is what we're doing to get rid of viruses. And so again, a disinfectant, if you're doing a disinfectant, just be aware that it requires a rinse after you disinfect on any of your food contact surfaces. And that's just the nature of how disinfectants work. So be aware that all of our sanitizers we sell you are legal sanitizers, but they can be used at a disinfectant range. When we talk about a winery, we're talking about sanitizing. So again, we're taking that clean surface and we're getting the bacteria level down to a safe level. All of our sanitizers are EPA and FDA approved. So again, if you look on our label, there will be an EPA registration number, and on there will be instructions for how to use our sanitizers as a non-rinse food contact surface. What that means, if you use it according to the label, you don't have to rinse it off prior to adding any of your wine into the tank. We also have on there how to use our sanitizers or our products as a non-food contact surface sanitizer, and usually those levels, we're talking about floors, the outside of equipment, non-food contact surfaces again, and normally those ranges are at the disinfectant level. So if you let that solution hit a food contact surface, you've got to rinse it off. The other thing, all our products, they are follow the CFR for sanitizers. You can see the number there. Any of y'all that have trouble sleeping at night, pull out this CFR. And I've been in this industry for 30 plus years, and it is a very detailed regulation. But again, everything you want to know about any sanitizer available to the food industry is in that's the CFR. Again, all our sanitizers got legal approval to get a 5-log reduction in 30 seconds. But to do that, you must maintain the proper concentration. Again, to be legal, we say 30 seconds. We recommend you leave a sanitizer at least 90 seconds to 2 minutes to make sure you get a good contact time. If you go longer, great. You'll notice on most of the labels, it'll tell you to allow the solution to drain before you add any of your product to the tank you're cleaning. Again, you don't want to leave 20 or 30 gallons in the bottom of this tank and start pumping in your wine. You want to make sure all that sanitizer is drained out of your system. Non-food contact surfaces, all they require is a 3-log reduction. And normally we're talking about such things as foot baths, foot foams to kill bacteria going in and out of your plant. For floors, walls, drains, and ceilings, any of y'all have a conveyor. We can put a sanitizer in that conveyor and a powder treatment. They all fall under this non-food contact surface approval. Quickly, this is actually a label from a parasitic. You'll know again, it shows you how to mix this product, what range. So most parasitic acids for for food contact, the range is 82 to 500 parts per million. Notice the label says 60 seconds. We like to go over that just to make sure. Notice it says drain access and do not rinse. So again, make sure you read the label. That is the Bible from the products you're looking at. And we highly recommend you bring in a test kit for your sanitizers because they're so critical. Going to talk about sanitizers. I'm clicking up here all the possible sanitizers that are available in the industry, but I'm going to mainly focus on the three that Crush the Cellar has. But we do offer all these other sanitizers, and some of these we've been especially using for COVID response. And if you go by our booth tomorrow, Bob can talk to you about our COVID response products. Most of those are usually, or the favorite is the alcohol-based or the silver dihydrogen citrate-based products for some COVID response. Most popular sanitizer is peracetic acid. The advantages, it's a broad spectrum killer. It will kill spores. It doesn't foam, so you can use it in a CIP operation. Environmentally safe, what I mean by that is that when it breaks down to vinegar and water. It's good on biofilms. Don't go, wait, Don, you told me I can only sanitize clean equipment. You're absolutely right. But the advantage of the peracetic is there's this hydrogen peroxide in it. So it's it's a mixture of acetic acid and hydrogen peroxide. That hydrogen peroxide, if you didn't get all the biofilms removed, will attack those biofilms to allow the sanitizer to work. Once you get in solution, it is pretty stable. Wide pH range. Peracetic acid, its own category. There is a category of sanitizers called acid sanitizers, and they need to be around 3 pH. Peracetic acids can actually kill fairly well at a pH up to 5.5. So if you have high alkaline water and your pH gets a little up on your solution of peracetic, it'll still get the job done. It is a strong acid oxidizer. It's the disadvantages. It does have a pungent odor. So any of y'all use it, you know what I'm talking about. It's not an acid rinse, so peracetic is not removing any of the scales. So special training, just because it is such a strong oxidizer, you need in your people, you need to know how to use it. Make sure you're using the proper PPE. Limited manual use. What I mean by that is you don't see a lot of people spraying it on the outside of equipment or on floors and walls and ceilings. However, I can tell you in the last, say, 3 to 5 years, I have seen a lot more people using it as a manual sanitizer. The products we offer, Pure San and Pure San A, are both 5% peracetic acid. We do offer a 15% called Pure San MP2 and Biocide HS15. Again, most of y'all are probably using the Pure San or the Pure San A. Again, 5% compared to the 15%. It's much safer to work with. And I'm a big believer in peracetic acid. It is a great sanitizer. Some of y'all might be using some quat sanitizers in your operation. If you are, we're mainly talking floors and probably drains. You would not want to use a quat inside any of your tanks because going here on the disadvantage of the residual, quat hangs around for a while. Going down on a floor or down a drain, that's an advantage. But quat is a cationic surfactant based sanitizer. You see here the advantages. Just want to really emphasize this, yeast and mold and residual for the floors, great usage. You can get it as an acidified version. Most people won't because of the cost. But I tell you, if you get the acidified quat, it will work even much better. Just remember, if you're doing some, say, exterior foam cleaning of your equipment and you don't get a good rinse of that foam cleaner, the surfactant in there is anionic. Again, the quat is cationic surfactants. They'll kind of neutralize each other. So it is important if you're doing some external floor ceilings, walls, or external on your equipment, you're using quat to make sure you get that soap, that detergent rinsed off. And it also, you don't ever want to use it as CIP operation, and definitely not in a winery. one in foams, but two because of the residual. What sanitizers we offer is Sanat 128F and 75 is the most prevalent we offer. The 128F, the reason I'm mentioning that is this is the one we're aiming for COVID response. It's a more concentrated version and great for putting on wipes for maybe your COVID response plan. If you want to do any foaming across doors, fanway or forklift doors, put a foam out to keep your forklift, say, or your people from dragging in bacteria from outside. We do offer a high foam version. Super Sand is our acidified version, and we do offer a floor sand powdered quat. So to again, if you want to spread that to treat people's boots and or forklift tires going in and out of your plant. As I mentioned about, are you getting a good rinse of your detergent, so your alkaline detergent on your exterior foam cleaning, or getting it rinsed off your floors and walls? This is an actual test, but you can take just a regular Q-tip. Almost all of our detergent test kits have phenolphthalein in it. So you can take that Q-tip, if the surface is still wet, or if it's a floor or a wall or something like that, you don't have to put a drop of DI water on it. You can just scrub the surface with it and hit it with phenolphthalein. And if it turns red, it tells you didn't get all the detergent rinsed off whatever piece of equipment you were trying to clean. Iodophores, again, this is surfactant plus iodine. Mainly seen this probably used in either hand dips or to in buckets to sanitize gaskets and fittings. Great broad spectrum killer. Reason it's popular, it's color coded. Basically, when you get it in solution, it'll look like weak iced tea. It's just a really good product, and been around for a lot of years. Again, pH sensitive, so you want to make sure if you're having a high alkaline water and you mix it, you want to check the pH. Make sure you are less than 4. When I say corrosive, it's abused. If you overheat it over 120 degrees, it will gas off. But most of y'all on your hand dips or your buckets, you won't ever get it that hot. Reason you don't see as much iodine as you used to is if you remember the earthquake in Japan a number of years ago. Iodine is in a pill form is what protects your thyroid gland to radiation. So a lot of the iodine production was going to that application. So it really drove the price of iodine up here in the U.S. So about 15 years ago, we started to see a lot of people move off of iodine, but if you're still using it, it is a great sanitizer. And our products are IOSafe and Halosan, and again, great iodine sanitizers. Some of y'all might be using hydroperoxide. I know we offer it, through crush to cellar. Again, it's a very, very strong oxidizer. The version we offer is a hydroperoxide, 34% food grade. Don't see a lot of people using hydroperoxide as their sanitizer just because it's a very tricky product to work with. You definitely do not want to store if you've got a pail or drum of this on a wooden pallet, because if you get a leak, that strong iron peroxide could catch that pallet on fire. So make sure you store it on a plastic pallet. So just be aware if you're using it, follow all the PPE and the safety procedures with hydrogen peroxide. Question that comes up, when do I apply my sanitizer? Is a manual step where you're spraying it. It's called a flood operation. CIP, it's usually a part of the CIP program. But the main question we get is if my plant sits for a piece of equipment sits idle for more than 4 hours, should I say resanitize it? Basically, you'll get most chemical people saying, yeah, it's probably a good idea to reapply the parasitic or whatever if you're going to sit down that long. just because, you know, when I first started this industry, we called it the Monday morning blues when plants would be down over the weekend and they'd come back that next Monday and always have high counts on Monday process. So again, it's probably a good idea to re-sanitize if you're going to be down that long. Again, I talked about flood sanitizing. So again, you want to get whatever sprayer you're using and get that complete coverage on the outside of your equipment. And if you're CIPing, you want to make sure you're getting complete coverage through your CIP ball, which means you should be inspecting your CIP systems, the balls in them at least quarterly. Monthly would be better if you can. Another way to apply sanitizer, and we sold a lot of these systems to sanitize people's front offices, break areas, but the fog or mister sanitizer. So if you have a large room where you're storing your tanks, or you bought an older building that you've repurposed for your winery process, just remember there, you might need to do some sanitizing up in the ceiling and rafters. And these foggers are a great way to go. And again, we offer one that gets a 15 micron size, and it looks like smoke coming out. So it will float up in the air. If you leave your air handlers on while you're fogging, you'll pick that mist or fog up and blow it all over the room and get a really good job. And if you want to see some videos of it, either reach out to me or talk to Bob tomorrow, and we can show you some videos of what a good fogging process looks like. We also do have some really nice handheld misting systems. Again, with this Delta variant of COVID, we're getting a bunch of calls on that again. So we do have some little handhelds so you can kind of mist around in your break rooms or your front office to help protect your employees. And again, talk to Bob about that tomorrow. The other place that you can get bacteria hiding is in your drains. So you can see here, we offer several ways to get the foam down the drain, because the reason you want to go with foam is you put a liquid down the drain, you don't get that 360-degree coverage. Foam will give you the 360-degree coverage. We actually have a specialty product called Sterilex that is great. It was actually, when it first hit the market 15, 20 years ago, they were aiming it just at foam treatments. So it is a great way to make sure you're getting the drains in your facility disinfected. We do offer it in a smaller handheld version. If you have any sinks where you employees wash their hands, or you wash parts, you might again want to shoot some foam down that drain. This one we aim mainly to breweries, but I know some of you wineries, if you do have maybe a soda dispenser with a little itty bitty drain under a soda dispenser, in the summer you see where you get fruit flies coming out of that. This little applicator will allow you to put a process or a chemistry down that little drain to keep the fruit flies away. And by the way, these big operations will help keep the fruit flies out of your facility. Okay, we're in any questions? Let me get out of the slides. Again, my cell phone number and email address. Please don't hesitate to reach out whenever you want to. Like I said, Bob will be at the meeting tomorrow. And while I'm talking here, I will give this back, and I need to get it over here more. Yes. Okay. So I guess any questions, and I don't see anything on the chat.
Thank you, Don. Thank you so much for your presentation that opened our eyes to a lot of cleaning and sanitization procedure that you are doing in other industry, and then we not always do in the wine industry. I think it's great information and you were able to share with us. You know, we sell some product from Wesmar Crush to Seller. I know then Wesmar offer consulting services as well. So if you any need recommendation consulting to your location, please feel free to reach to Terry at Crush to Seller. I will put you in touch with Don of the Wesmar team. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity to have some professional from the cleaning, and if you have any need, feel free to reach. You know, I think that is the most important.
And for all y'all that have your own bottling operations, I didn't really talk about those products, but the closed sand PVW, but we also have some liquid products that are really good for CIP and cleaning. Any of y'all that have your own fillers.
Okay, great. Thank you, Don. I appreciate it. If we have additional questions, I will forward them to you and put you in touch with people who are interested about your service and product. And that brings us to the next topic with Steve Buchan. Steve, you know, AquaTool, we see your brand everywhere. We see you everywhere in Symposium, in Unified, in Sacramento. We see you on the Love Wine magazine. We see your tools everywhere, and your tools are on Crush to Seller floor with your hot cart. We also know that you did a lot of work with the Gamma Jet, and I've been, you know, producing wine for more than 30 years in the United States, for 20 years, and Gamma Jet, I've been part of a everyday winemaking life, you know, for cleaning the barrels, and with a drought is something to consider is the amount of water we are using, and we know that with your Gamma 7, you were able to increase the cleaning capacity with lower the quantity of water. So can you share with us, you know, first what your company is about and what product and tools you have for the winemaker toolbox? And I'm going to pass the hand up to you.
Okay. And
I make you as a host. Now you are the host.
I'll try that again. Still saying host disabled.
And I should be good now.
Okay. Okay. We are looking to share our screen. I'm sorry, we tried this earlier. Let's try this. Still not there. Let's try something different real quickly. Does everybody see that? Are you able to see that screen?
No.
No. Okay.
What I can do is, are you on the website?
We can talk. Let's just talk. And I'm not quite sure why that's not sharing. But
Is it showing on your screen, Steve?
it's showing on my screen, on my Outlook. I mean, on my Google Chrome. That should transition over, right?
Right. If it's, in other words, it's a web-based, so it's running through Chrome.
Right.
So when you go to share your screen,
Right.
and it'll give you like, you know, desktop. If it doesn't show one where you can actually see doesn't show you that Google screen anywhere, the Chrome
Nope.
screen.
No, it's not.
That's weird.
Oh, let's see.
It usually shows a couple of screens.
Yeah, let's see. Now it keeps giving me system preferences. Well, so
what we can do, I can share the screen and go on your website, and you can drive me. Okay, so I'm going
or I could email somebody the link. So
send me the link.
Yeah, let me send a link to you, Sebastian.
Yes, and
maybe you can pop it open and we can go that route.
Yeah, so you will have to put me back as a host, otherwise
Okay.
I will not be able to share my screen.
All right.
But you will be able to speak, and we will be able to hear you.
Okay. I'm over in trying to see where I switch you as host. Go to the three dots in our.
Yeah, go. You have a 3 dot on my picture.
Yep.
And you should be able to say as a host or
Make host. Okay.
There we go.
Okay, so let me email you that link that we had created, and see if I can do that. I'm probably gonna have to minimize this to go to my emails. All right, here we go. And okay. I'm forwarding this to you, Sebastian.
Yep. I'm waiting for it. Otherwise, I will go on your website.
You're not in my emails. What is your email? Give me your email, Sebastian, real quick.
Yeah, it's Sebastian.
Yep.
Sebastien
Okay.
at crush2seller.com. I just sent to you.
Okay. See if you get that. Okay.
Not yet.
You just sent, what did you send me?
I
An
just
email?
sent you my.
Oh, an email I can reply to? Well, if you want to go on the website, I can pretty much, I think most people here, am I on talking? Is everybody there?
Yep, go ahead.
All right, so give you a little bit of history while Sebastian's working on that. In 1991, I got started in the wine industry. In 1997, GammaJet came up with their GammaJet 7, and we acquainted ourselves at one of the wine techs in San Diego. And we, as a lot of you know, have built our tools around high pressure, low flow, water savings, yet high pressure, high temperature. And GammaJet needed a horse to ride to introduce their GammaJet 7. And the pressure washers that I had installed, if any of you have been around a long time, they were big blue KW pressure washers manufactured out of Denmark that, let's see here, if I can get this to go to Sebastian real quick. Had a big presence within the wine industry, especially in Northern California. And so it was a perfect marriage. We had the equipment. GammaJet had the little barrel washing device that would go into a small opening, and we went ahead and sorry, I'm getting this over to Sebastian really quick here.
You know, my wife is right when she said that men cannot do two things in one shot.
No, I can't. Okay, here we go. It's going your way. Everybody hang in there. It's going to be worth it. I probably have spoken to most of you or met you somewhere. So, okay, Sebastian, you got it. We've only lost one person since my little fiasco.
It's
So,
fine.
so anyway, back to the story with GammaJet. So GammaJet had a very nice little device that went into a small opening or bung of a barrel and required low flow. In our situation with the pump we had, it was 5.5 gallons a minute, and high pressure, which was 2750 PSI. And GammaJet originally priced that GammaJet 7 at $2,700, and I was, or $2,000 rather, and I was like, there's no way people are going to buy this. So we introduced it. We did a lot of trade shows, and it was a hit, but it got to the point where you needed 2 or 3 devices to keep one going. And the customer service part on GammaJet wasn't the best for my, for my customers. So you're up, Sebastian. Perfect. Thank you. Long story short, AquaTools is about high-end pieces of equipment. I hate service. I'd much rather have a good piece of equipment than have continual service. And so we parted ways, and I went to Italy and put the specifications to a device that I wanted for a company, and We had a first unit, which was called an Aquablaster 360, and then we introduced the Aquablaster LT, which is the present unit. The benefits of the Aquablaster LT is it turned very quickly, which cleaned very quickly, which saved a lot of water. And it was a hit, and it's pretty much dominated the barrel cleaning scenario from now on, from ever since. So we're going to go a little bit through our slides. I've talked a little bit about us, and let's advance to the products page, Sebastian. Thank you. So there you see the Aquablaster LT, which is, in my opinion, the standard within the industry. We've been able to make that device, that cleaning head, which is standing on a four-legged stand, which, by the way, was developed by Cake Bread back in the 90s, into do many different things. So you can see it in its current configuration. It's with a round ball, which will easily go into the bung of a barrel. You can put a dog bone in it, which will allow it to go into an IBC, which we'll talk about later, or a tank. We have a platform where it'll clean a tank 8 feet or small or shorter. And again, these are driven by 5 to 5.5 gallon a minute pumps. So you're able, the beauty of our pumps, and if we move over to the next pressure washer, which is the Cube Poseidon to the right, Sebastian, that blue pressure washer, that is the foundation for a lot of things we do. And that is what they call now is the Poseidon 767. It's manufactured in Denmark. I've stayed with the Poseidon 767 for many reasons, mainly because its ability to handle 185-degree water continuously with very little hiccups. I've tried to go American, I've gone Landa, I've gone Hotzi, I've gone Mighty M, I've gone all the American manufacturers, but it always comes back to that machine and the pump that is in that case. And we find a lot of customers who go different places too, and they come back and it's like, I can't, we want to buy another one of these. We're very disappointed in your competitors, just get us a Poseidon. So the Poseidon is a great piece of equipment. The basic pump and motor is the same pump and motor that has been going on since I got involved with them in the 90s. And we still service machines that were manufactured in the 80s with that same pump and motor. The life of a typical American-made machine is 8 to 10 years. And the beauty of the Poseidon is if you ever see one in a dumpster, call me because I'll buy it from you. Moving over to the next item is a steam generator, which we've become, steam generators have become very, very popular. There have been some really good articles written about them, and we almost sell as many steam generators today as we do pressure washers, which typically, could be one a day on a normal week. Steam, with the introduction of steam into the barrel, things changed dramatically. And so our theory is you utilize the barrel washer, the Aquablaster LT, in the barrel, agitate or clean the barrel like you would be wiping dinner off the dishes before you put it in the dishwasher, and then introduce steam so the steam has a clear substrate to work properly. You introduce the steam wand into the barrel for 3 minutes, and then you trap the steam in the barrel, which creates vacuum from the heat, and that removes residual material out of the barrel if you choose to do that. Moving over to the next item is an accessories part, and that's a little device which every winery usually buys with their pressure washer, and that's super short, which allows you to, basically it's an extension of the trigger gun. And if you see the little bayonet on the end of that, that bayonet is connected to the barrel washer, the wand. We have it on a floor tool. So it's a quick connect, which makes the trigger gun on our pressure washers very ergonomically friendly because everything swivels perfectly. So the strain on your body while cleaning is minimal. Okay, let's go down to the next slide, 4. And we're going to talk a little bit about the hot card. And the hot card is my baby. It's something that I came up with and had my partner build, but it is basically an alternative to traditional pressure washers. And so when we were with GammaJet, if you've had a GammaJet, you know that there's a jillion parts in them and it doesn't take much for them to clog up. And what they're clogging up with for the most part is scale and rust from a traditional pressure washer like a Hotzi. And so we knew that, and it's like, here I am, I hate service. What can I do to get better potable water? Our customers are making great wine. They're trying to sanitize with portable hot water. but they're getting crummy water out of traditional pressure washers. And so I had tankless water heaters in my facility, and it's like, why doesn't anybody utilize tankless water heaters to create hot water? So we created the hot cart, and the hot cart has a digital touchpad, so you have full control of your temperature. It has the ability to come from, it's heated with propane, so you introduce water into the tankless water heaters. They're fired by propane. They come out of the tankless water heaters either out of a hose bib like you have in your cellar, or you divert it to run at high pressure, high impingement through the little Poseidon pump and motor you see to the right, which again is designed to run 185-degree water. We heard great presentations from Don and Richard. We encourage people to utilize that 185-degree sanitizing fluid, and if when in doubt, do a swab test. But we have a lot of people that have successfully sanitized with 185-degree water. So let's go down to the next slide, and that would be slide 5, which again features the Poseidon, which I've talked a lot about. And the Poseidon and the hot cart, the beauty of the Poseidon and hot cart, especially in this environment where we have very little water, is the ability for that pump and motor to do things that devices that require more flow require. So we talk about cleaning small tanks, and we have a lot of customers that have taken their little barrel washer off that 4-legged platform and turned it around or put it on a platform and introduced it into a small tank, and it does a phenomenal job. So the beauty of our barrel washer and the Poseidon is that you can really kill 2 birds with 1 stone, in that you can do tank cleaning, small tank cleaning, which a lot of people are going to smaller tanks these days, and introduce it into a barrel for barrel sanitation. So the Poseidon, again, it's been around, the pump and motor has been around basically since the 80s, and it may have been before then. And we are most likely the biggest distributor of this piece of equipment which is the parent company now is Nilfisk, in the world. We do a lot of these pieces of equipment to a variety of industries. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And that would be our steam generator. We got into the steam generator game about 15 years ago, and we didn't really go hard at it. We have a very good competitor in ARS, who's a good, friendly competitor, and we compete similarly with a lot of the customers. And we're very happy with our competitor, but we feel we make a superior machine. We know that our customers who have used Glenn's swash machine and gone back to our machine comments about the difference. There's a lot of competitors. You have a strong hot seat dealer in your area, which is importing a machine from Korea. And, again, we feel we have a superior machine to that machine. In the slide, you can see where you can run steam through a wand, like a car wash wand or a pressure washer wand. And you can also see the barrel wand, which we introduce into the barrel and introduce steam into the barrel. If we go to the next slide, we can try that. And Sebastian, if you want to run that video for a minute, let's see if it'll run. Okay. So I don't know, but this is a very early video. The steam generator we buy now comes in an enclosed cabinet, so you don't see all those external pieces and pipes. This is manufactured for us by Reimers in Virginia. It's a 100-year-old company. We've had wonderful success with it. The Reimers steam generator is the most reliable piece of equipment that we sell, requires very little maintenance. If you've got hard water, you need to be a little bit concerned about scale. It's very important at the end of the process that you blow the unit down. It does come with a standard pump on board, which increases your water flow. So you have good continual water flow. It'll produce about 80 PSI. Again, these are very, very popular right now. There's been some great articles written about it. Sebastian mentioned that we've been featured in a number of articles, and the Reimers steam generator is a hit. It's a good price point. We've been asked by our competitors to lower our price point, but we're very happy with our price point, and it works for us very, very well. And there you get a good look at the barrel wand. If you go to the next slide, which would be slide number 10. Down to 10. There you go. Nope, down, down, down. There. This has become very, very popular for us in the last couple of years. This is where we took the barrel washer, converted it to a IBC washer. A lot of people are using flex tanks, IBCs, and small tanks that you can wash through the top. So what we've done is we've taken the barrel washer and a lot of people buy these independent, keep their barrel washer, and they buy these devices alone to stand alone. But what we've done is you can look at the bottom of the barrel washer where the turret is, and you can see there's a dog bone rather than a round, smooth ball, which is designed to insert into a barrel. The dog bone has 2 traditional nozzles on it instead of 4 like we use in a barrel. And the reason that we use 2 instead of 4, with 4, we're being very gentle with wood. With 2, we can become very aggressive with plastic or steel. And so by introducing that device into the top of a tank, into the top of an IBC, or even turning it upside down on a platform that we design, you can clean from the bottom or top. And this is very, very popular in the wine industry, but really outside the wine industry, we're killing it. It's eating up our inventory on LTs, but it's a very good device. It's important that you guys know that the LT is not one-dimensional, but it turns very quickly. So we're going to go to the next slide, and that again will go to slide 11. And we're going to run another video, and this is the Aquablaster LT in New Hampshire in like November with a cold water pressure washer, and this is molasses. So this will give you an idea of the speed of the LT and the cleaning ability and rotation of the LT. This is a very good video. In this video, you can see the LT being introduced, the splash guard is in place, and you simply open a valve and let it go. And this works very effectively. It's been a very good video for us. Again, this is a very successful product designed to run with a hot cart or a Poseidon, but there are a lot of people out there that already have pressure washers and it can adapt to this. And we're not interested in people changing their pressure washers. Pressure washers are expensive. Our devices are expensive. And if your pressure washer delivers 4 gallons or greater, you can use our barrel cleaning devices. If it's a traditional machine, like we talked about, you can go to the next slide, Sebastian. If it's a traditional pressure washer, like a Hotzi, you would need to introduce a filter in between our device and the pressure washer to pick up scale, rust, and things like that. It's really important when we go back to the hot cart, when we talk about sanitation, and we've done a lot of discussion this morning about sanitation, but people come to me and it's like, we're starting a winery, what do you recommend? And I always tell them that good, hot, potable water is the foundation for sanitation. Take that hot water and put it under pressure, take that hot water, run it into devices, but good hot water is critical. And when you have hot water that is controllable, can be controlled with the digital touchpad so that you're plus or minus 1 or 2 degrees, you've got a really good handle on your sanitation practice. We're going to keep moving to the next slide, which is up. And this is a device which is used for floor cleaning. And this is called an ANT4C. And a lot of wineries use this connected to the hot cart and the Poseidon. And this makes quick work of floor cleaning. Again, you can run your 185-degree temperature through this. And it's like mowing your lawn with a rotary lawn mower instead of trying to use a weed eater, which would be a pressure washer wand to clean your floors. The ANT4C is kind of the top of the line. It has the ability with front sprays and side sprays, and also a rotary bar on the bottom, which again is much like a rotary mower. Very successful product. We do a lot with it. We're going to keep moving quickly because we appreciate everybody that's been here for so long, and there's no long for me to be more winded than I can be. But we have a lot of parts and accessories. For instance, the trigger gun you're seeing is a steam gun. We have hoses, we have lances, we have a variety of quick connects, and all the products that Milfist has had for years. A lot of people come to us from all over the country. There's a lot of the Poseidons and the hot carts used in different applications, from cruise ships to, plant productions. We have our hot carts in big facilities. Gallo has multiple of our carts throughout their facilities, because when they built their facilities, they found voids of hot water. And so they're very popular. You can roll them out outdoors and indoors. And, again, we know there's many, many devices within your area. And I look forward to coming up tomorrow and seeing you and talking more about our products. So a quick chat. Is there any questions there? Looks like we're covered. So very quickly, I'll say goodbye and pass back over to Sebastian, and hopefully get a chance to visit with everybody tomorrow. So let's see, quick click on you, Sebastian. Let's see.
I got it.
You got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Very
So
good.
thank you so much, Steve, for the presentation. Your tools always been part of the winemaker lives in the United States. So it's always good to see what you come up with, and the efficiency of your equipment is not to be reinvented. I think you did such a good job with AquaTools. So thank you again for participating to a Crush to Seller webinar. So I want to thank you everybody for participating to the webinar, Crush to Seller webinar series. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Steve. I just want to invite everybody to come tomorrow at Newburgh location. We have like a pre-harvest celebration with Customer Appreciation Day. Most of our vendors will be on site to introduce their new product, to just introduce themselves to you. And we'll have some tacos. So we'll have some tacos outdoor and some beer. So we have a nice fun truck with beer on tap will be here as well. So please join us. We'll have swags, t-shirts, and then stuff to give away as well. So please come over to say hi to Terry and the team. And I just wanted to thank everybody again for participating to the webinar, and hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.